let's do this. So we had quite the experience this weekend. Um, I had decided it was worth the time to have a existential crisis about something that doesn't even really affect me on behalf of a bunch of others. So I guess I channeled my internal white woman for the topic. Uh, I spent 3 hours pacing around my kitchen plotting the demise of a person that I never met, don't know anything about, think might be one of the most underappreciated geniuses of his time. And in my imaginary universe, I made him uh, the director of my version of Disney. Um, so I did during that existential crisis. I walked through the three voices in my head. I have a Buddha, hippie, and the Joker. I think are my three voices. Everyone I think has three voices. So before I get into like explaining everything, let me focus on what's going on. So uh, I do want to acknowledge to uh, everyone at the Pat McAfee show and uh, that I may have everyone that I may have said something inappropriate to Pat McAfee, uh, Ty Schmidt, Boston Counter, AJ Hawk, Tone Diggs. Who's in the back? We got. I should know this. Lions guy, Dolphins guy, Giants guy. I don't know who the bigger guy who sits in the front team is, and I don't know who the guy in the back corner his team is. Darius Butler, Bruce Arians, J.J. Watt, Dan Orlovsky, Adam Schefter. I think that's everybody. If I forgot you, my bad. Be more memorable, I guess. Um, but I do acknowledge that I had an emotional response to an action that may have made your experience disappointing. And if I'm aware of being in that situation again, I will do better. Um, and that's the best that I can do. I cannot make you, I don't even think you care, but it's not about what you do when people are looking, it's about what you do when people aren't looking. And during that existential crisis or whatever it is, uh, of typing random shit on the internet, I said to myself, if you won't say this to somebody's face, you shouldn't type it. I'm not, I don't regret anything that I typed and said. I think it's all very true and questionable, but um, it was never going to be received in the way that I intended it. Um, Intention's got a funny, is a funny thing because you're not aware you need it till it's too late to explain it, right? Like I can say things with whatever intention that I want, but by the time I realize that it was the wrong way to say what I had intended, uh, the reaction's already occurred. So I have to pick. You have to pick up the pieces. But um, my intention was to treat that as a coaching experience, which at the time sounded like a good idea, um, and and I was very disappointed in the way, in the reaction that was was had by people on the show towards the 1 minute of L raps, like most people were. And I was going to coach somebody in a place they didn't know existed, in a game nobody is aware of, for a team that hasn't formed yet. And I wanted it to be received in a way uh, that would be better for my team of that matter, if that makes any sense. Uh, Being a fan is like I'm looking at all of this from a fan's perspective, right? And like it's fans are a very interesting group of people in that we're either a bunch of 2-year-olds or we act like a bunch of fathers. Um, and I'm like more of a grandfather type figure where like I have the 2-year-old's gonna throw a temper tantrum anytime something doesn't go their way and like explode everything. Uh, like everybody did over the weekend. Um, the father figure is always like if it's the father fan, like the father fan is the one that's like, yeah, we did it. Da 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 da. They're always saying good things and taking credit for whatever the team does, and they're always providing their uh, expertise on a situation that they don't know anything about. So um, I'd like to. I think the fans need. I think it's interesting. Uh, it's interesting that like it's interesting that it's surprising that things like this happen. Um, just in the way of the format of the show, right? Like people are watching Pat McAfee like part of the genius of the genius that I find of the whole production in the show is like the little nuanced things that are put in there, whether on purpose or on accident. They're still there, uh, and I've accidentally gotten into positive situations on a regular basis. So either way, it could be a thing. But like in in the dismissive of a accountability thing, the disclaimer or whatever, he uses the phrase that this is supposed to be comedic informative, and it's funny because I'm also writing stand-up comedy stuff, and it's not funny. And I think that's where part of the genius is that in using the word comedy, because it's not meant always to be funny. Comedy was never meant to just be funny. If you go back through and read different literature and different things that are labeled as comedy, they're not all funny, but they all have an undetermined emotional response. Like it's not fiction or it's not this or it's not that. That's the original way it was. And kind of moved to being funny. So when he uses the word comedic informative, it's he's or that show is designed to get a reaction, um, and whether or not it's on purpose or not, like it's that's why people watch it. But the other reason why, like the reason, one of the reasons why I think a lot of people, myself mainly, tune in is because it's an observation of an experience that you would like to be in, and there are times where you feel like you are experiencing it. So it's an interesting show. And I'm not. It's so when people have a response like I did, like it's not appropriate or okay in any way, shape, or form. And I don't know, justified's the wrong term, but like the people that attacked the people on the internet for doing that is like it's like yelling at a customer service rep. Like they're not the ones that did it. They're not the ones that's gonna fix it. So like getting pissed at them is not solving the problem. Um, but like I wonder if as being on the show, right? Like not I wonder being from the perspective of like Ty Schmidt or Tone Diggs or any of the other people. Like they realize, like the end of the show, they always end with "Team on me, team on three," and it's it was funny because I that brings me and I don't know maybe other people back to the time that they were on a team. Mm-hmm. It's so like that if you've played football, obviously that's the way every drill practice uh, session would end is your group gets together and it's one, two, three, and some usually team or some other thing. Um, I realize that I'm crying. It seems like I'm sad, but it's just when I don't know how to experience things, I cry, and all of this is terrifying. Um, um, the first time that I did that was well, not the first time, but the first meaningful time that I had that was um, in high school. I went to a little school, and most of the people would play modified or JV or whatever the hell it's called now until sophomore year. But for some reason, I don't know if I got held back and was too old or too big or whatever. It wasn't a skill set thing. Um, I had to play varsity football, and typically they don't have freshmen on the varsity team. So I was on the varsity team. Uh, I was a backup quarterback the 2 years that I played modified football, and so there was really no place for me to play, and the coach didn't want me, the team didn't want me. Uh, So it was a very lonely first little while. Um, and the first time you did that as a freshman, you're you're not really, you don't feel like you belong. Um, I progressed through high school in there, and I ended up being in the middle of that, and that was a rather profound experience. So So when it's said at the end of the show, I guess now I wonder if you realize that like there's other people out there that are doing it too. And for a minute, like they feel like they're on a team, and we're really not. And that's where the disconnect is. That's where the reality of the situation is. Like, and I know it seems like I'm a psychopath, and that's fair. Uh, I'm not, but it's I don't really have much evidence to support the opposite at this point. Um, and that's where my mistake was made, is that I was operating under the assumption that I was in the middle of that, and I wasn't. And the emotional response, the emotion is just a disappointment in yourself for seeing the present in the past in a different way. So whenever you're mad or you have an emotional response, is always to when you saw something going differently, no matter what it is. And that's all emotion is disappointment in your ability to predict. Um, and uh, and like and I feel bad if for whatever reason anything that I've done has provided a disappointing experience for anybody. Because even if I was on the team, that would make me a bad teammate, and I don't I don't accept that standard. So I want to apologize for that. Reasons that I did it, probably, like I said, intention doesn't really matter. Um, it's for some reason I'm compelled to explain. Uh, I don't give a. I'm never going to give the NFL any wealth uh, to consume its product for two reasons. One, I don't have any, um, but the main reason is the value that they provide is not proportion to the wealth that they cost, and that's where I am in the whole thing. But the reason that I was upset about it is everyone's saying that it's just a minute, it's just a minute, it's just a minute. And I don't know if this story is true, but it's the way in my reality, it is certainly the way I remember it. In the early 80s, when I was growing up, cable TV was just coming out, and my parents were debating on whether to pay the cost to get it put into our house. They were just like putting the lines into whatever it was. And I don't even know what it cost at the time, but whatever it was, I mean, it wasn't a significant sum of money, but when you're living paycheck to paycheck, it was enough to make you less comfortable, I guess, if that makes sense. You could afford it, but if something went wrong, it puts you in a pinch. I think I remember it hearing. So there was a lot of debate on it. But one of the selling points that my mom gave my dad was that we would be able to sit together on Friday and Saturday night and watch things without commercials, because that's how cable TV was presented originally, that it was going to be a subscription model with no commercials. And when they first added commercials, my dad hummed and hawed and everything, as dads do. And up to the point at which he had just given it and accepted that it was reality. And then they started raising the prices of the model, so we could get things like ESPN and HBO and all these other things. And then they stopped doing public access TV, and there was a whole other thing of all that. So it turned into the monstrosity that it is today. And they keep raising the price of cable, and they keep raising the price of cable for sports packages. And I believe they had just raised the prices of sports packages last year, specifically ESPN. Now, I know everyone's going to say, well, they didn't even make the offer or have the deal finalized by them. But I have to believe, never negotiated $1 billion contract before. You probably had an idea you were going to spend $1 billion. So you have to raise the money somewhere, and you raise the money on people paying for cable, who already pay a whole bunch of money already for a bunch of shit that they don't want. Now, understand, there's new options, but old people are old people, and they're going to do what they're going to do. And those old people are my parents, and I kind of feel for them. But then I also look at the experience that I had with my dad and feel like somewhere in the ether of existence, there's another person who is working 40, 50 hours a week and giving a not substantial but not insignificant. They're giving a meaningful sum of their monetary wealth for an experience that does not include having advertisements thrown at them in any capacity. And even though there were commercials added last year, it still was being presented as a commercial-free environment. And I imagine it's somewhere out there that there's some father or mother or somebody who's disappointed in the experience that they're providing a child, much like how my parents ended up being very disappointed the first time there were commercials on cable TV. And that's the reason why I was upset. That's the reason, is because it's not just a minute of commercials. It's all of the extra stuff behind it, like raising the prices of everything and making everything very difficult to get. And I get, if you're making $17 million a year, there's no difference between wealth and value, because you have so much wealth that the only thing you value is the wealth. But there's a lot of people that don't have an abundant amount of surplus of wealth, so they're more concerned with the value that they're getting for the wealth, and that minute is taking value away. And what that value isn't determined by time or money. It's determined by what their expectation of that moment is. And much like my expectation of this moment wasn't to hysterically cry in front of anybody who ever watches this, and my expectation of the moment when I heard everybody saying that it's just a minute wasn't to freak out and want to burn shit down and blow people up. I wasn't expecting to do that, but that's the disappointment I had in that moment. And when I hear people say that it's just a minute, and I hear people say that if we think, like, the other part of that was like literally the day before, we hear you say that if we think you hate us, we hate you right back, and that's just the way it is. To the very next day, and like I said, while I was having my moment, we're not on your team, but we thought that we were. To have you say that if someone hates the team, you hate them, and for you to say, well, it's okay, like, that's kind of a thing that I understand that, like, that wasn't your intent, and like the intent of what you were saying was like, I'm an NFL whore, and if I got it, I'm going to give it to him just so I can get my next hit. Like, that's like, I know it's bad, but I'm still going to smoke. That's what you were saying. And that's not what anybody heard. So that's on us. That's on us. I'm sure I said, I don't even know what I said for the 2 hours that I rambled when I was stoned out of my mind. So, again, I can't forgive myself. Forgiveness is an emotion only you can give. So understand that everything that I do is done with the purpose of making it so everybody can live like they have a rich girlfriend. That is my purpose. How to achieve it, I have no idea. I actually have a great idea. I just don't know how to get to where we get to the first step. I have the plan, but I don't know where to start. Yeah. So that's pretty much it. I just wanted to apologize. I publicly ridiculed, so I will publicly apologize again. I will do better. And got 9,994 more of these to go till we get to 10,000. So there is no action without reaction. React with purpose. react often, and when possible, act kindly.